All right, so we, Ms. Hogerby and I decided we were going to show these constructions again that we did in class. It's been several weeks now, but we figured this would be a good practice for you to see again. So we have 4 examples, and we're going to create a segment that's congruent to the segment below first. So you need to create, first of all, a point that's off to the side of that segment. And you can label it, let's call it C. All right, so now we're going to set the opening of your compass to the distance of segment HI. So notice how Ms. Hogerby is doing that. Just kind of make sure it's the distance. Don't adjust the compass, and you're going to place the point of the compass on point C. Make a small arc. So Ms. Hogerby is doing a great job there. And label a point on the arc as point D. So you want to put a point somewhere on there and call it D, and then draw segment CD and use that straight edge. Perfect. So those segments should be congruent.
So of course I can mark them with my little congruence marks too.
Yeah.
So they are awesome. Moving on.
All right. Now we're going to construct a congruent angle this time. All right, so we're going to use a straight edge and draw a ray with endpoint X. So we're going to make a ray, and the initial point is going to be X. Perfect. Now, place a point of your compass on the L. And we're going to draw an arc that intersects both sides of the angle. So you might have to move it out a little bit. So you want an arc that intersects both sides of that angle. Perfect. Label the points of intersection T and U. And we can name them different points, but we're just using these letters. Without adjusting the compass, place the point on X and draw an arc that intersects that ray. Okay. Okay.
Notice that I made my arc a little bit bigger because I'm going to be making another ray eventually here too.
Yes. All right, label that intersection Y. Place a point on U, so we're going back to the original, and open it up to the distance of TU. So you're going to make sure that setting is right between T and U. Without adjusting, place the point on the Y and make an arc. Label the intersection Z. And now we're going to use a straight edge and draw our XZ ray, so our other side.
Notice that this arc that I made for the original TU and now YZ, those arcs, are the exact same distance from that initial point, from that vertex of my angle. But then I had to reset my compass because now I want to make sure that the distance along that arc between those 2 points here is the same as the distance between those 2 points over here. Make sure you do adjust your compass because that's one where I'll have people who forget to adjust their compass.
And what should be true about those 2 angles?
They should be congruent.
They should be congruent. Perfect.
Mark that is congruent to that.
All right. Now we're going to get into the bisecting mode. And this one, we're going to construct a segment bisector for that segment NP. And we are going to use our compass. All right, so we're going to first place the point, compass point on G. It will be N or P. Let's do P. Use a compass setting that's greater than half the length of NP. So it needs to be more than half, and you're going to make an arc. And notice how Ms. Hogerby made it pretty decent size. You don't want to make a small arc. You want it decent size. Now, we're going to keep that same setting, and we're going to move it, and we're going to do it on point A or point N, and we're going to draw another arc. And notice how those arcs intersect. Now we're going to draw a segment that connects those intersection points. Perfect. And notice what happens is where it intersects that segment in P, you're going to put that point, call that M, and what's going to be true?
That's my midpoint.
And so what does that mean?
That it bisects my segment into 2 congruent segments.
So that means NM and MP are going to be congruent to each other. Perfect.
Now, one thing to know, guys, this is my bisector, the segment bisector, it's also a perpendicular bisector. So you're going to hear that vocabulary term a lot more in the future, but just to know that that is not just bisecting the segment, it is making a perpendicular bisector to that segment.
We're actually going to talk about that, I think, on Monday, a little bit about perpendicular. All right. Then last one, let's make an angle bisector with our compass. So we're going to place a point on R and draw an arc that intersects both sides of the angle. All right, label those intersections P and Q. Now, we're going to place a point on P.
And here, it's okay to adjust your compass if you need it a little bit bigger.
And we're going to make an arc that is in the interior of the angle. So this doesn't say anything about keeping the setting. We're just going to make an arc inside of it.
But now keep your setting.
Now we're going to keep the setting. Without adjusting the setting, place the point on Q and do the same thing and make another arc. And where that intersection is, we're going to label that point R.
Oh, not R.
Oh, not R. We already have an R. Let's do T. Sorry. And then we're going to draw a ray connecting R through T. And what we created was an angle bisector. Ray RT ends up being the angle bisector, so we have some congruent angles. Perfect.
All right, guys. Those are important constructions to know, so make sure, practice those on your own. You can make your own angles and segments and practice bisecting them and creating congruent ones.